Was that helpful?
Yes.
Excellent. What I want to give to you this session is... I think I am. Am I switched on? Can you hear me? Great. Wonderful. I'm going to basically move on now, but just before I do, there's a couple of things I want to mention for you over the lunch period. We produced this book, following on from the Queen's book, and the Queen's book is still available. The miracle of the Queen's book, it was the biggest selling production. Is it not on? Is it on now?
Testing.
Has that made a big difference? Ah, look at that. There you go. It's there now. Sorry. The Queen book actually did 1 million copies, which is amazing. And you can still get them now. People are still requesting them because they're a great conversation starter. But what we discovered is if someone's interested in finding out about Jesus, what is the Jesus story? So we produced this book as a gift just to give to someone that's interested. It's just the Jesus story, but it's done in a very creative way, and these are £1 a copy. That's all. And it's just so for you to take away. I was giving this to someone just recently, and he was like, I'm not really interested in Jesus. He said, but I'm cool. He said, is it in here? I said, yeah. He said, I'll have one. And he came back to me, he said, that's amazing, I didn't know that. So there's always connections that we're looking for. So if that will help you, do take one of those. If you don't get Hope's e-news and the kind of resources that we want to serve you with, then do please sign up in here. There's a little piece in the middle where we'd love to serve your church if we can. If it's helpful to serve your church, just fill that in over there, leave it on the table, and I'll take it away with me. And one of the things that we discovered was we need to encourage people to pray. And this year is a significant year. 2020, people are sensing, is a very significant year. So what we produce is a bookmark and a business card, like this, with 2020. And what we are encouraging every church to do is at 2020, on the 20th of every month, to pray for 20 minutes. Now it's a bit quirky, but a whole denomination and 2 entire dioceses have taken this away. So on the 20th day of every month, at 8:20, pray for 20 minutes, and you'll already be part of 6,500 churches that have agreed to sign that up in 2020. So you're not just praying on your own, you're praying right across, and we're praying for people to encounter. So if that would help you, do take some of these, either the bookmark or the business card is the kind of way that we put it, and then sign up saying that we're in 2020 at 2020 for 20. Do you get it?
Yeah.
So it's all the 20s, just to connect in that way. And if those are helpful to you, then do take them. But we discovered that a lot of people didn't know how to pray. And if you asked them to pray for an hour, they would really struggle. So we produced this little book that just encourages people on how to pray and what prayer looks like. And if that's helpful to you, I will give it to you today as a gift. And you can take one of those away with you, and I'm happy to give you those as a gift. So if we're committed to communication, one of the things that you constantly need to do is think about your audience. And I read biographies and communication books all the time. I live in that world. I want to know what makes effective communication. I think Jesus was the best communicator that we ever had. He used story. Some people criticize story. Stories are amazing. Jesus said, didn't he, that he never spoke without the use of a parable. And a parable has the truth within it. So sometimes you remember an illustration, but actually a parable has the truth within it. So when you remember the story, the truth is in it. So what you need to understand is as you do that, you are not just illustrating. Think of a story that has truth within it. So that's what Jesus did. The other thing that Jesus did is ordinary people heard him gladly. So I think we need to communicate in such a way that ordinary, everyday people understand what we're saying. We've got the most amazing truth, but we need to make it really simple and clear. And the best way you can do that is with story. So we were constantly thinking, how can we help the church communicate the Jesus story? So what we did was we brought together every denominational leader. It was a bit of a miracle, really, because we brought every denominational leader out of London to a 24-hour gathering in a beautiful place called Windermere. And I remember Pastor Agu, who's part of the Redeemed Christian Church of God. Is it me or is it getting really hot in here? It seems like we're all going to have a sauna very soon. And you're not speaking, but hey, it's just... We've turned it down. Wonderful. It's great. It's a shame to waste the heat as well, but anyway. We brought them all, and I remember Pastor Agu, who's part of the Redeemed network of churches, which is a black denomination, saying to me, Roy, will I need a passport to get to Windermere? I said, no, you're all right. You just need to get a train and connect in that way. But we brought them all to Windermere. It was amazing. But as we got them there, we were looking at how could we, in the next 20 years, re-evangelize the nation. What would that look like? See, big doors, small hinges. They all came. And then we thought, well, what are we going to do with them for 24 hours? That's the next big question. So what we did was a piece of research. Now, this piece of research has really... Oh, the video almost tried to work then, but it didn't. Do you think the video would work? No, it won't. Okay. So we did a piece of research asking people in the street what they think of Jesus. Now, many churches do research on the church statistics, how many people are in church, the decline. The Methodist Church used to do this in a big way, they had a whole department. Last year they shut the department. The reason they shut the department is the figures were getting too depressing. It's kind of interesting that they did that, isn't it? But that's what they did. Anglican do this, a number of non-denominational streams try to do this, but don't always get a handle on it. So it's always difficult to evaluate how we're doing as the church in the UK. But we employed a company, and we said we want to find out what people, ordinary people, think of Jesus. Isn't that a good question? So let me give you some of the stats, because I think this is really, really important. 43% of people in the UK, predominantly England, believe Jesus rose from the dead. Isn't that good news? Most of us think it's so secular that, nobody believes Jesus rose from the dead. So when they come to your Easter service, don't convince them apologetically of the resurrection of Jesus. They come believing that. What you need to do is convince them of the power of that resurrection to change their lives. Rico Tice, that is a big church in London called All Souls, when he saw this research, he always did an Easter Sunday sermon on the apologetic, the fact that Jesus rose from the dead. He changed this sermon completely as a result of this research. Because he said, people are coming believing that. I need to tell them they can experience that resurrection. Let me give you some other really interesting insights. And if you want this, it's all on talkingjesus.org, because it will help you. And let me tell you what it will do. It will give confidence to people in your congregation to talk Jesus. That's what it will do, because most people think everybody's against us. Particularly those people that read the Daily Mail. Because the media would have us believe that the world hates us. It's just not true. It's just not true. 67% of people in England, predominantly, although it's the UK, but predominantly England, know a Christian. There's a follow-on question to that. Do you like that Christian you know? Isn't that a good question? And guess what? They like us. They think we're hospitable. They think we're generous. Only 3% think we're homophobic. Now, if you believe the media, it's just not true. Why is that true, that research? And it is true. It's because they know that it's the local church that does street pastors. They know it's the local church that does food bank. They know it's the local church that serves its communities with meals for kids that don't get food when they're off school. They know that the local church does this. They know. So 67% of them know a Christian, and they like us. And get this, they're either friend or family, so they know us really well. But let me ask you a question, and this is the question that I got posed by this. If they know us and they like us, why do we not see more of those people come into faith? Isn't that a good question? And the number one way that people come to faith still is through a friend. I think it's because the Christian community doesn't have confidence to talk Jesus with their friends. Do you agree? I think that is the number one reason. And let me tell you what else we've done. When we've trained people in evangelism or mission, we've trained them using a passing method of evangelism rather than a permanent method of evangelism. Let me explain what I mean. If you go out and talk to someone on the street or see them on a train, and I'm always amazed, these evangelists think they build faith in people doing mission by these most amazing evangelistic stories. Whereby they, I was sitting on a plane, and as I was sitting on this plane, I was sitting next to them, and they looked so sad. And I started sharing faith with them, and then all of a sudden I prayed with them, and they accepted the Lord, and they smiled, and they looked so different. And then the hostess came along and looked at both of us in 31 A and B and said, "Why do you look so happy?" "Well, this person's just given their life to the Lord." "Oh, I'd love to know how I can come to the Lord." And the hostess then gives her life to Christ. And as she's giving out all the meals, everybody's saying, "Why are you looking so happy?" "Well, the 2 in 31, 38B have led me to Jesus. Would you like to meet Jesus too?" And the whole economy class comes to faith in Christ. And as the plane's landing, the pilot's leading them in a song, "Just As I Am." Most people, when you hear those stories, can't relate to them. Because it didn't happen like that in my life. I've been praying for this person for years. I've been connecting with them. I've been trying. And then these evangelists think they're building faith by telling these most amazing stories. Most of us then feel awful and think, "I'm really no good at this. I don't think I'll even bother." Is that not true? So we need to equip people that are in permanent relationships how you share faith in a permanent relationship, because it's very different to the way you share faith in a passing relationship. See, if I'm meeting you in a passing, and I just meet you on the train and I just say, "Oh, I'm going to share you Jesus, I'm going to give you this book," and maybe there's an opportunity to pray with them, that's great. But if I'm seeing this person at work every day, or they're in my family, how do I share faith then? And we haven't helped the church do that. We haven't equipped people to do that. friendships and family relationships, but we're not seeing them come across into faith. Is this true? I'm convinced it is. And so how do we, the part of the Talking Jesus course that we produced is exactly that. It's exactly that. And if you want to run that course, it's just 6 sessions of stories explaining the gospel, giving impact to the gospel. But it also encourages you, because the Talking Jesus research is another statistic for you. 20% of people in England would be open to an experience of the love of God. That's 1 in 5. I was doing a clergy conference for the day, and I was quite enthusiastic about this 1 in 5. And so at lunch this vicar sat me down and he said, Roy, he said, I love your enthusiasm. But he said, it does mean that 80% are not. I'm like, oh dear. If you were in business, you'd go after the 20%. Yeah. So let's go after the 20%. Yeah. If you invite 5, you may get 1. But if you invite 1 and don't get that 1, you probably won't invite anyone again. Is that not true? And what happens is we try it, someone says no, and then we think they're against us. Or they don't like us, or we feel rejected. Hey, get over it. They just said no. That's all they said. My neighbour Lenny is an amazing guy. I love him to bits. He's living with his girlfriend. They've had a baby. And I met him the other day. I get on with him really well. Met him the other day. I was pulling out my drive. And he stopped me and he said, Roy. He said, I need to talk to you. I said, why? He said, I know you're really angry with me. I said, I'm not. I really don't know what you're talking about there. No, he said, I know you're not. He said, because I know you're religious. I said, yeah. He said, I also Googled you and I know that you're a reverend. So you're really up there. Not just religious, you're rev. I said, Lenny, where's this conversation going? I don't understand. He said, well, you know that Sarah and I are not married. I know you're angry about that. I said, I'm not. I've never been angry about that. I said, you live your lifestyle and you live your lifestyle. I can't dictate my values on your lifestyle. But I don't reject you. I think you're great. He said, you're lying. I said, no, I don't understand what you're saying. He said, well, I don't get it. He said, you should be angry with me. I said, no. I said, I live my way and my lifestyle, and that's the way I live. And all of a sudden I discovered there was a perception that he had. There was a big barrier that I was totally unaware of. I had no clue that he boxed me in that way on the way he was living. So I said, listen, that is just not true. I said, it's so not true. We're doing a men's event, a curry night. Why won't you come? Would you like to come? He said, when is it? So I told him when it was. He said, oh, no, Roy, thanks, I can't come. So I thought, okay, that's fine, you can't come. Then I had another event, so I invited him to that. And he said, oh, I'm really sorry, but I can't come. So I thought, oh, I'll quit. I've asked him twice. I don't want to push it. When he met me in the garden, he was doing something with his fence and I was doing something with mine. And he looked over and he said, Roy, he said, I just thought I'd better tell you, don't stop inviting me. He said, I'm thinking you might think you don't want to invite me anymore, but those 2 things are in the diary. Whatever you do, Roy, make sure you keep inviting me. Because he said, I want to come. Now, if I'd gone with my perception, I probably wouldn't have. But what we tend to do is we don't invite. The other thing we do in church is we make a big thing of people coming to faith I think there's much more around the invitation. If I was to look at evangelism in the New Testament, the only thing we're called to do is invite. Jesus converts people. Jesus does everything else. It's all I'm called to do is invite. My invitation is persuasive, yes, but that's all I'm called to do. So let's affirm, have you invited 3 people? Well done, no one came, didn't matter. That's not the issue. Jesus is in control of that. It's all I'm called to do is invite. We should be an invitational people. But we're so nervous and scared that we don't do it. Because then we hear stories, people come up the front and they say, oh, this person, and the story is, you came to faith in Christ, which we need to acknowledge. I want the story to be, how many of you invited 3 people to this service? Hand up. Great! How many came? None. Doesn't matter. Keep going. Keep praying. Keep inviting. Talking Jesus Research has done that. This course has done that. But then we asked, okay, those that are followers of Jesus, and we set some criteria on being a follower of Jesus. How did you come to faith? What is the number one way that people come to faith? And I know you're going to think this is evangelism seminar, but if it was called an evangelism seminar, nobody would turn up. Is that not true? Because most people don't think they're evangelists. You may not be an evangelist, but you are a witness. And you are called to be on mission. So the number one way that people come to faith is through a friend. Still the number one way. 27% of people come to faith by reading the Bible. Let's not underestimate that. But 40% have a spiritual experience first before they understand what they've experienced. So next year, as part of 2020's vision, we're doing a thing with 24/7 prayer. And what we're saying to churches is offer prayer in community spaces. Not in a boiler room or in a church, but in a community space, in a shop, in a gazebo in Ashby de la Zouche. And you just offer it for a week. And we'll resource you, we'll give you some ideas how to do it, and you just offer a prayer space. So there's a number of festivals that are happening next year where they're just going to offer community prayer spaces. And as part of 24/7, we'll resource you with everything you need to be able to just offer a spiritual experience to people in the community. And you know what will happen? They may experience something of God and then ask the question. Because God is in the business of touching people's lives. When they're in a space where there's prayer or where there's connect, we are offering a resource. If you like this, you can download the whole thing. But if you want this as an idea, this will cost you £1, unfortunately, because we designed it very heavily. But all this stuff is downloadable on our website, and you can just connect with it in that way. But the reason for it, very simply, is building off the research to communicate what we can do. So the Talking Jesus research has a massive impact. And all of those stats, all that you want to look at, you will find on that website, talkingjesus.org. If it's helpful, there's a little booklet that you can discuss as a small group that just unpacks some questions. But let me tell you something. In the churches where I've presented this, Christians' confidence in sharing faith has gone up from, say, a 1 to a 9. Because they discover that people are open. And I would contest that they've never been as open as they are now. Look at what's happening in our government. Look at what's happening in our world. It's hopeless. There's never a better time to bring hope. There's never a better moment for us to communicate that there's a sovereign God that is over all of this and in control. And he reveals himself in his son Jesus. We have a unique moment to communicate the gospel in this season that we're in. Because I am convinced that there's an openness to the gospel, particularly with an older constituency, when either life moments happen, i.e. birth, death, wedding, life moments, or a crisis at a national level. Those are the best moments to communicate the gospel at that time. So, let me give you two other little bits of research. There's a very big trust that did some research. They give a lot to evangelistic ministry each year. This has not gone public yet, and they're not going to make it public, but we're encouraging them to make it public. Because this piece of research is church attendance. Now, you may be in a church where church attendance is declining. They wanted to ask the question, is church attendance growing? Again, I live off research, because I think it shapes the way we think and what we do. And if it doesn't, something else will shape what we think and do. The Bible is our grounding, but our context for communicating the Bible is what our audience believes and thinks. Agreed? Yeah. So it's the Word and the world that join together. That's what Stott always used to say. A newspaper in one end, Bible in the other. That's what you communicate. The basic human needs have never changed. They're still there. Rick Warren says if you meet basic human needs, you'll communicate to any audience. It's true. So, this piece of research, done by this trust, came out with some very interesting things, which I'll give you. It's not public. I know this is being videoed, so I could be in trouble. But, first and foremost, most people think there are a lot more women in the church than men. Agreed? True. It's a perception that has become reality. It's just not true. It's 51% and 49%, which is minimal. Nothing like what we think it is. Isn't that interesting? But let me also tell you where the biggest growth is in the church, according to church attendance. It's 18 to 34-year-olds. Isn't that good news? Now, it may not be in your church, but actually they're the most open to belonging, to finding identity, and dealing with the issues that they confront. So there's a massive growth in this church attendance amongst that age. Isn't it interesting? If you study the Bible, and I do study the Bible, we get loads of ages in the Old Testament. In the New Testament, we never know anyone's age. Isn't it interesting? We get, 100-year-olds, you get all the ages, Moses, 80, all there. In the New Testament, we don't know the age of anyone. We know that someone was a young man. What's that? What was it? We never get it in the New Testament. So theologians have tried to unpack what the average age of those people were. But it's not in Scripture, but it's there. Do you know the average age of the disciples that theologians think? No, more than 20. 14 to 23-year-olds. So Jesus spent his entire life with a youth group. Why? Well, there was a different age. There was a whole stack of stuff around the age profile. Adolescent was there. You became 13, there was a whole stack of change, I understand that. But those people had the ability to change the world at that age. You set the agenda right with people at that age, and you've got them for life. And so it's really interesting, this piece of research that says 18 to 34-year-olds are the highest growing trajectory. Now, what it also says, which we need to understand, is the church has a lot more older people, I don't like to call them old people, born early people, and these born early people are going to die, so the statistic will look bad for a few years, but the undergirding growth is going to look good 10 years from now, if we continue on this trajectory. Isn't that good news? And that's why I've said to them, you need to put this out there. Because it will change people's perception. And it will again build confidence and build faith. And my time is up, and the fish and chips should come. But any questions you'd like to, because I've given you a whole stack of research, and then I'm going to give you these 6 keys to growth, which are up there. I'm going to come in the next session. Any questions? Because I've spoken at you all morning. I feel bad about doing that. What, just because interactive?
Why do you feel bad about it?
No, I don't feel bad. I've just spoken at you. I've got a lot I want to say. That's my problem. Any questions? Is this encouraging? Any questions?